The Coskata-Coatue Wildlife Refuge makes up for 1,117 acres of land across the northern point of Nantucket. During the 17th century, European settlers arrived to find the Wampanoag people, a tribe who had been living on the island for thousands of years. The Wampanoag people referred to their Nantucket homeland as the land far away at sea. In fact, the Coskata-Coatue Wildlife Refuge derives its name from the Wampanoag people, Coskata meaning at the broad woods, and Coatue meaning at the pine woods. The Wildlife Refuge was originally privately owned land, but was generously donated for conservation and preservation purposes. It began in 1974 when Mrs. J. Backus and Mr. and Mrs. Sickless handed over the original 810 acres as a gift. This was followed by land donations from the Lohman family between 1983 and 1989, which gifted us with 282 acres. By 1998, partial interest in 125 acres was given by the Lohman family once again, in what now makes up the Coskata-Coatue Wildlife Refuge.
Today, the conservation of Coskata-Coatue is a joint effort by private, local, and federal partnerships. The trustees of reservation own the largest part of the refuge, but they are not the only stakeholders. The Nantucket Conservation Foundation accounts for the Coatue Wildlife Refuge, the haulover, and the gateway of the peninsula, while the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service owns the Nantucket National Wildlife Refuge at Great Point.
Coskata-Coatue became a protected area because the refuge is a dynamic beach providing harsh but critical habitat for wildlife and plants, which have uniquely adapted to these types of conditions. Because of the diversity in landscape and habitat throughout Coskata-Coatue, it falls under Category 5 of the IUCN, thus classifying itself as a protected area for landscape and seascape.
The stakeholders of Coskata-Coatue have observed an extensive list of direct threats including vandalism, unauthorized use, predation, dogs, inconsistent management, sea level rise, and dune erosion.
The threat casting the most attention at Coskata-Coatue is the recreational use of oversand vehicles. Oversand vehicles have a direct impact on threats such as vegetation destruction, dune erosion, piping plover crushing, and most importantly, damage to nesting habitats. In order to reduce the direct and indirect threats of oversand vehicles, park managers are intervening with this human-caused impact by cutting down the existing oversand vehicle trail system by 36,000 feet, a 45% reduction to the trail system during breeding season.
An indirect impact influencing oversand vehicles is the pricing of car transportation by steamboat. The price has increasingly risen over the years because of concern of overcrowding. Managerial assessment of this threat has attempted to be aided. In the last decade, the number of oversand vehicle permits has increased by 250%, and the number of rental permits by day use increased by 380%.
The trustees of reservation offer an educational tour around Coskata-Coatue in order to educate the community about human-induced threats and how our recreation within the refuge can damage the land far away at sea.